Star Trek Discovery's Sonequa Martin Green reveals which previous captains she hopes to cross over with. When Star Trek Discovery launched in 2017, it boldly carried the franchise into an era of serialized storytelling, cinematic visuals, and character-driven arcs that pushed Starfleet narratives in new directions. At the heart of that reinvention stood Sonequa Martin Green as Michael Burnham, a character who grew from disgraced first officer to the first black woman captain of a Star Trek series. Her journey has been one of personal redemption, unshakable loyalty, and fearless leadership. Now that Discovery has concluded after 5 seasons, Martin Green is opening up about what might have been and what still could be in the realm of crossovers with Starfleet's past. Star Trek fans have long speculated on which legendary captains Burnham could interact with if time, space, and production logistics were no barrier. As it turns out, Martin Green herself has her own dream list, and the names reflect both her admiration for the franchise's history and her understanding of Burnham's unique place within it. Burnham's journey shapes her ideal crossovers. Before diving into the captains Martin Green has spoken about, it's worth considering how Burnham's story makes her a particularly intriguing candidate for crossovers. Unlike many Star Trek leads who were written as captains from the start, Burnham's arc has been defined by transformation. She began as a mutineer whose decision nearly ignited war with the Klingons. Over the years, she fought her way back into Starfleet's good graces, forged deep personal bonds, and eventually led the Discovery crew into the 32nd century. There, she faced challenges no captain before her had ever confronted: new galactic orders, broken alliances, and the daunting task of rebuilding the Federation itself. This trajectory makes Burnham's potential interactions with past captains even more compelling. She isn't a mirror image of anyone before her. She is a synthesis of Starfleet's highest ideals and her own hard-won resilience. Martin Green, aware of this, has chosen captains whose encounters would illuminate Burnham's growth, challenge her leadership style, and celebrate the Star Trek tradition of mentorship across generations. Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the philosopher. Unsurprisingly, one of the first names Martin Green has highlighted is Patrick Stewart's Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Picard represents the quintessential Starfleet intellectual, measured, diplomatic, and steeped in philosophy and history. For Burnham, who often leads with emotion and instinct, a crossover with Picard could serve as a fascinating counterpoint. Imagine the tension and eventual harmony between Picard's cerebral approach and Burnham's willingness to take leaps of faith. The discussions alone on ethics, leadership, and the balance between logic and compassion could rival the greatest dialogues in Star Trek history. Martin Green has spoken about her admiration for Stewart and how Burnham could benefit from an encounter with Picard. It isn't about Burnham needing validation, but about her engaging in the kind of discourse that could sharpen her already formidable leadership instincts. Fans would no doubt relish seeing Burnham push back against Picard's stoicism, while Picard in turn might encourage Burnham to trust in patience and diplomacy. Captain Kathryn Janeway, the survivor. Another Captain Martin Green is often cited as Kate Mulgrew's Kathryn Janeway from Star Trek Voyager. Janeway's leadership was tested under extreme isolation, stranded in the Delta Quadrant without backup from the Federation. She had to make impossible choices, balance her role as scientist and commander, and maintain her crew's morale through years of hardship. Burnham's journey in the 32nd century mirrors some of Janeway's struggles. Discovery too found itself cut off from the Federation it once knew, facing threats no one could predict. A crossover between Burnham and Janeway would be more than fan service. It would be a conversation between two women who led in isolation, forged families among their crews, and shouldered the burden of being both explorer and protector. Martin Green has praised Mulgrew for paving the way, acknowledging how important it was for women, and women of color in particular, to see Janeway command a starship. Burnham meeting Janeway would symbolize a handoff across generations, an affirmation that leadership can take many forms while still embodying the Federation's core ideals. Captain Benjamin Sisko, the strategist. Though Martin Green's official comments about Sisko have been more reserved compared to Picard and Janeway, fans and interviewers alike often raise Avery Brooks's Captain Benjamin Sisko as a natural crossover partner. From Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Sisko was perhaps the most complex and morally ambiguous captain of his era. He grappled with war, faith, and the ethics of command in ways that often blurred the lines between right and wrong. Burnham, too, has faced morally gray decisions, whether defying Starfleet orders to save lives or risking everything on instinct when logic suggested otherwise. A meeting between Sisko and Burnham could explore the psychological toll of leadership, particularly when the fate of civilizations hangs in the balance. Martin Green has said in the past that Burnham carries the weight of history on her shoulders. Who better than Sisko, who bore the expectations of prophecy, war, and politics, to understand that weight? Captain Christopher Pike, the mentor. Of course, Burnham already shared the screen with Anson Mount's Captain Christopher Pike in Discovery Season 2, and the chemistry between them was undeniable. Pike's steady, inspiring leadership served as a kind of bridge for Burnham during a time of crisis, and many fans credit his presence with recentering the series. Martin Green has expressed her affection for Pike as a character and Mount as a colleague, often noting how much Burnham grew under his mentorship. While Pike has since spun off into Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Martin Green has said she would love for Burnham and Pike to share another adventure. Their relationship is unfinished in many ways, and further exploration could deepen Burnham's understanding of what it means to lead not just through brilliance, but THRGH integrity and humility. Captain James T. Kirk, the rebel spirit. Then there's the icon himself, Captain James T. Kirk. While Martin Green hasn't emphasized Kirk as much as Picard or Janeway in her dream scenarios, she has acknowledged that Burnham could find common ground with William Shatner's and more recently Paul Wesley's Kirk. Both are willing to take risks, to bend or even break the rules when the stakes demand it. A crossover between Burnham and Kirk could highlight their shared rebellious streaks, contrasting how their respective eras view risk, sacrifice, and responsibility. Burnham's time in the 32nd century might give her a new perspective on Kirk's swagger and improvisation, while Kirk could see in Burnham a leader who embraces vulnerability as strength, something he often hid behind bravado. Why these crossovers matter? It's easy to see these dream meetings as simple fan wish fulfillment, but Martin Green's comments reveal something deeper. She views Burnham as a character who thrives on connection. Burnham is not isolated in her leadership. She learns from others, she grows through dialogue, and she embraces the legacy of those who came before her. Crossovers with Picard, Janeway, Sisko, Pike, or Kirk wouldn't just be entertaining. They would expand the tapestry of Star Trek itself, showing how captains across centuries shape one another, even hypothetically. These encounters would also give Burnham opportunities to reflect on her own journey, from the mutineer of Season 1 to the captain who helped rebuild the Federation. For Martin Green, whose performance has already cemented Burnham as one of the most dynamic captains in the franchise, the possibility of sharing the screen with her predecessors represents a continuation of Star Trek's greatest tradition, the passing of wisdom through generations, ensuring that each new captain stands on the shoulders of those before them. The future of Burnham and crossover potential. With Discovery wrapped, many wonder if Burnham will return in future Star Trek projects. Martin Green has expressed openness to reprising the role, particularly if it allows her to interact with captains from across the franchise. The modern Trek era has already proven willing to embrace crossovers. Just look at Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, so the door is far from closed.